Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. In the last video, I filmed my reaction video for receiving my A-level results, and I say that I am going to film a video about why I choose to pursue economics instead of law. Now last year, I applied through UCAS to study law, and right now I decided to do differently to apply for economics course instead of law for this time. There are actually a multitude of reasons why I choose to make this switch, but I did a cost benefit analysis and I have a lot of factors that I need to consider. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the entire thought process. So before I start, I want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Ziheng and I am an CAIE A-level student, and I just recently graduated from college. And I got my A-level results. I currently have 3 A stars in maths, further mathematics, as well as economics. I plan to sit for history in this year, October, as my fourth complete A-level subject. And I actually have AS biology, but I don't think that's really worth mentioning. And I plan to reapply in 2023 cycle. I'll briefly talk about the benefits of choosing law and then the benefits of choosing economics, and then to try to weigh them whether one is better than the other. So I'll start with law first. Now, for me personally, I have no preference over law or economics. I find both of the subjects very interesting, and I actually started studying economics in IGCSE. So that's since I was year 10, right? So I got exposure to economics very young, and I always liked the subject, so I have no trouble with it. It's not like mathematics where I will not choose to study it at the university level, but economics is fine. Law, yet again, is a really interesting subject, and I really enjoyed it. I did my own self-studying. Of course, I did not do any formal um, studies for law, but I did my own reading. I also find law quite interesting as well. So that's the premise. Of course, if you like one subject over the other, then it's a pretty clear choice of which one you should choose, right? But for me, I have I really have no preference of studying law or economics. So it really boils down to the other factors, right? So I'll talk about law first, the benefit of studying law. So first thing is, um, well, for law, if I want to say law at Cambridge, their requirements for UMS score is much lower than for economics, right? So for economics, I think they have a really high requirement for UMS score, and there is a chance that you do not even get the interview, you do not even get shortlisted because your UMS is not that good. Now, my A levels, I achieved the maximum grades for all my subjects, but my UMS scores are not that pretty, so they are the lower end of the 90s, and that's one thing that I'm concerned about. But for law, I don't have to worry about that because their UMS score requirement is not that high. So that's for competitiveness. So for economics, it's typically more competitive, and for law, it's relatively less. Right. So that's one factor to consider. Second thing is I have experience of preparing for law admission. So I know I did the LNET test before, and I also did the whole application process before. I know how to write my business statement. So it naturally would be easier for me to stick with my original course. Yeah, so that's basically the benefit of studying law. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you why economics is a more attractive option for me. So first thing first, LNET, I have never find LNET easy, right? So I think I'm quite a hardworking and slightly obsessed person. Like if I want to do something well, I will try my best to achieve the maximum grades possible. And that fared pretty well for me for A levels and IGCSE in general. If I worked really hard, I put in the hard work, I typically get what I want for my grades. But for LNet, it's a different story. Even though I tried really hard, I did a lot of practice papers, I still did not do that well for my LNet. So I would say I did pretty much terrible, and I'm not happy with the results. But I would say that I put in a lot of hard work into practicing for LNet. And I also heard about people that do not really care or they do not really practice for LNet, yet they still get much better score than me. So it is times like this that you really have to question yourself. Is LNet really made for someone like me? Does my strength really lie here? Now, because a lot of universities, they take students in, especially for law, they require you to take the LNet. And I personally find LNet quite difficult, and I've never really scored well. Of course, I only tried once. I could always try again. But I don't think it is really the, worth taking the risk. Because if I don't get a good LNet score for this time, then I am pretty much doomed, right? Um, yeah, so I don't think I should take the chance. For economics, on the other hand, I have to take the TMUA for economics admission into Cambridge. So TMUA is like a mathematical test. Now, I'm personally quite good at mathematics, and I looked at the TMUA papers and I find them relatively okay. I could do it. I didn't find them particularly hard or particularly difficult. And a lot of my friends share my opinion as well. So I'm pretty sure I can get quite a good score for TMUA if I put in hard work, right? So, and I'm not worried as well. And also another advantage is that it's just Cambridge that cares about TMUA for economic admission. Now, LSE doesn't care about TMUA, so as UCL, Imperial, King's, right? So these are the universities that I will apply to, and most of them don't look at TMUA. It's just Cambridge itself. Of course, I'm still gonna try my best to do the best for TMUA, but in case the worst thing happens, the four other universities still do not consider my TMUA. So that's definitely a plus. So, and another thing is my subjects are more suited for economics instead of law. I think you might probably know that I got rejected last year from LSE because my subjects uh were not suited for law admission. So LSE basically rejected me because my subjects are too narrow and basically not suited for law study. So it's pretty much sort of like a wrong decision since the start, and definitely I couldn't go back in time to change my subject. Why don't I just find a subject? Find a university course where my subjects would be A-level subjects would be desirable, and I found it, which is economics. So economics consider your mathematics, further mathematics, and economics, basically the three subjects that I took, and I did reasonably well for this time. I figured I should just give it a try because except for Cambridge, four other universities don't even consider my UMS score. So I think economics would be a better option for me. And also the financial side, because for law, it's relatively harder for you to find a scholarship for law, uh, as opposed to economics, because economics is just a broader subject and a lot of more sponsors will be willing to give you the scholarship. But for law, it's more specialized, and not a lot of firms will be able to offer you a scholarship because they do not need a law student as an intern or wherever. So that's another factor for more scholarship options. And also another thing to consider is my common application, because I also plan to apply to the US and also for apply for economics. So if I gain practice um, in in the UK applications, I can use the same kind of skill or same materials to apply to the US. So that's also another advantage. And another factor which is also important is my history. Because my subjects are not that suited for law, history becomes a necessary element, a very important element. So because the history becomes essential for my law application, and I haven't set for history yet, history remains an unknown, like a variable. So definitely I could not place my emphasis on a variable factor. Whereas for economics application, history would just be an added advantage. It will not be something that is necessary to consider. So that also works in advantage um, for economics because there is less reliance being placed on history as an A-level subject. Um, yeah, and I think you might consider some other aspects such as what are your future prospects. For some people, this is like the primary consideration. So what are you gonna do with an economics degree? Are you still gonna practice or things like that? Well, I personally think that um this is not something I would consider at this point in life. Because first thing first, if I get a scholarship, I pretty much would be bonded regardless whether I took law or history. So it doesn't make much sense for me to consider it now. If I am a scholar that is bonded to an organization and need to work for them for 3 to 5 years or even more. And another thing is that I don't think it really makes a lot of difference for for an economics student and law student in, in terms of the lucrativeness of the industry. I think pretty much legal industry and maybe the finance sector, they are in tertiary sector, and I don't think they make a lot of difference. A lot of hard work will still be needed. Of course, it will still be very competitive. But that's not something I consider right now. So my concern here is just trying to get to a university and to focus on my studies, to focus on the course which I'm interested in. I'm interested in both law and economics, so it doesn't really make a lot of difference for me to apply for both, right? But I can't apply for both, so regardless of which one I choose, I would be very happy with my course. So that's why I pick economics over law because of the a lot of advantage that it gives me in terms of my course, my level subjects, in terms of scholarship options, as well as in terms of um, the my current situation, which is history. I haven't set for history yet, so economics would be a much better option for me, and much more secure, I think. Yeah, so that's it for this video. Um, I hope I expressed myself clearly, and I hope you find this video useful. See you in the next video. Bye.